BioWare just announced the next update to Star Wars The Old Republic, and in a live stream they told us a little bit more of what we can expect from Update 7.3. For me, the most important part of this update is, of course, the story, the new questing area, and Flashpoint. They're making a really great change to the way they handle Flashpoints in story, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but we can expect some other things too. These include more PvP updates, as well as another round of changes designed to fix some of the issues with the game's economy. They also shared information including start dates for upcoming events in the game. So let's start by getting the basics out of the way. We don't have a launch date right now, but we do know that they are planning to open the PTS soon, as in hopefully by Friday, May the 5th. If not, then probably within the next week after that. So if you're interested in seeing any of these changes in action, keep an eye out and hop on the PTS once it opens. We also got a new code to redeem. It's Lot Sahar. You can see it on the screen. Capitalization doesn't matter. And if you redeem it between now and May 18th, 2023, you can get a Sahar poster decoration for your stronghold. Okay, with that out of the way, let's move on to the meat of the stream. I'll just briefly touch on the PvP updates, as I don't play PvP and don't have a strong opinion either way. But if you do play PvP and you enjoy the changes they made to the Alderaan map, or even if you don't, I guess, you can expect to see those changes coming to Voidstar, Novair Coast, and Hutball. And during the PvP update part of the stream, they made a throwaway comment about combat changes. They went into absolutely no detail at all, but on the forums there is a thread detailing some class changes that will be coming to 7.3. I'm guessing this is what they were referring to. I'm not going to go into detail on that. You can go check that out on the forums if you want. I'll leave a link in the description. All I'll say about this is I wish there were a way to make abilities behave differently in PvP versus PvE. That way maybe we could avoid the constant push-pull between the two modes. Fix it in PvP and PvE is a mess. Change something in PvE and PvPers are upset. I know this isn't just an issue with SWTOR. I hear people complaining about this in ESO too. So maybe implementing these kinds of changes is harder than I'd think. Next, they talked about the next round of changes aimed at fixing some of the issues with the economy. They started making these changes back in 7.2.1. These are the travel costs as well as the increased repair costs. According to Eric Musco, they have seen some positive results as a result of those changes, and they're going to continue them in 7.3 and beyond. In 7.3, they're going to focus mostly on the GTN. They're going to implement a progressive tax, and it will be based, of course, on the value of the item. They're going to start taxing off GTN trades, and though they didn't mention this in the live stream, the thread where they detail these changes, they say that off GTN trades will be taxed at the maximum rate. What they want to do with these changes is encourage people to go back to the GTN. They want it to be the main place for trade, and they want credits to be the driving force behind the economy. They're also going to increase the cost of some vendor items, though they didn't give any details on this, so I guess we'll have to wait until the PTS opens to find out what that will be. Beyond 7.3, they're looking to overhaul the GTN entirely, and they're looking for feedback on that. To that end, they've opened a thread on the forums. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check it out and give your suggestions. And on to the events. First, we have the May the 4th celebration, which, strangely enough, runs through May the 4th to May 18th, 2023. During the event, you can earn double XP. There will also be a 50% collections unlock sale, and just by logging in during the event, you can get this cute little mini pet. The Narshadal Nightlife event will also be returning. It will begin on July 11th and run for 6 weeks. And finally, PvP Season 3 will begin on July 18th and run for 12 weeks. They showed off some Obi-Wan and Andor-inspired weapons going to the cartel market, as well as Season 3 PvP rewards and a new skiff available during the Nightlife event. And finally, we come to the story. Usual caveats apply. I'll be talking about the story bits that BioWare shared in the live stream, so nothing too major, but if you don't want to know anything, well, you have been warned. The story in 7.3, Old Wounds, will take us back to the Malga story and the search for information on Darth Nul and her holocron. The team we sent off so very long ago, I believe in Whispers of the Force, has finally returned, and they have some information for us. Armed with this new information, we go back to interrogate Malgus again. As usual, he's not too keen to speak to us, but apparently this new information will pique his interest and perhaps spur him to say something. At the same time, Sana Ray has been summoned back to Voss to speak with the three. They have some important information that she'll share with the player. Whether as a result of her information or what we learned from Malgus or the team that we sent to investigate Darth Nul's planet, or a combination of all three, we also end up on Voss. Now, the really cool thing about this is that BioWare has created an entirely new playable area on Voss for this story. It's called the Interpreter's Retreat, and it's run by a group of Voss and Gormak who are working together to rebuild Voss after Valen's attack during the Eternal Throne Chapter 1. So instead of having to go back to the Voss we visited during the class story, we'll be able to see Voss as it is now in the current storyline, and that's really cool. I hope they'll be able to do that with other planets as well. They did want to stress that this is not a new daily area. It's not as big as Runic, but according to Ashley Rule, the game's narrative designer, there are a lot of side quests, there are a lot of decos, achievements, and armor sets, and by the look of it, it seems that there are armor sets for every combat style, so that should keep the collectors among us busy for at least a little while. During the story, we'll be seeing a lot of familiar faces, including, of course, Malgus, Arkin, Sonoray, Rakan and Sahar will make an appearance. Shay Vizsla will be back, as will Torian. He'll be wanting to talk to us about what happened on Runic, assuming he's still alive and in your alliance, of course. On top of that, Tau and Rivix are going to be back, and they're going to have an interesting encounter, which we can see in this little snippet of a teaser they gave us. We're not the only ones looking into Darth Null and her holocron, of course, and it turns out that our enemies have been hot on the trail too, and they have found the same information we have, and that apparently leads to this confrontation. I don't know if the outcome is going to depend on which faction we're playing or which faction we're loyal to, if we're a saboteur or not. Who knows? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. We didn't get any indication of exactly how much story we're going to have, whether it's a few minutes, an hour, or two. If we go by what we've been getting lately, we could say maybe an hour, hour and a half, depending on how you play. But that's just a guess, so it's probably best to keep expectations reasonable. Nevertheless, from what we know, this story sounds more interesting than Runic, at least to me. I'm not really into the Mando stuff, as I've said before. What I do hope is that we finally actually move the story along, though. We've been at this point for so long. We ask questions, we learn nothing, we do a flashpoint, we learn nothing. I really hope we can actually accomplish something this time. All that aside, there are definitely some bright spots with regards to the story. They're still using companions who could be dead. We've got Arkin and Torian who have meaningful contributions to the story. That's great, and again, I hope it bodes well for other companions who may have suffered the same fate. They've added a new playable zone to Voss that updates the planet in the current timeline so that we can see how it's faring after the events of the Eternal Throne chapters. It would be great if they would do this to other planets in the galaxy so that we're not always going back and just seeing them as they were at the beginning of the game. And last, but absolutely not least, is the change in the way they're handling flashpoints in 7.3. The way it's been done for the last several years is that the flashpoint will be the big climax to whatever story content they give us. It's been designed that way to serve both the story and group content. But, as Eric Musco admits today, finally, these two goals are very often diametrically opposed. So, in order to alleviate this issue, they have decided that this time, though there's a flashpoint, it is not required to complete the story. It is not part of the Old Wounds storyline. The flashpoint in 7.3 is called Shrine of Silence, and it's connected. There is lore that fleshes out the storyline, but it isn't necessary. Musco compared it to Red Reaper and the other classic flashpoints from the early game. I really can't overstate how glad I am to see this shift in design philosophy. I have hated the Flashpoint as story concept that came with 5.0 from day one. Flashpoints just aren't a good vehicle for a compelling story, and if they're forced to be a vehicle for story, they suddenly become too long to be good group finder fodder. Apparently they asked for feedback on Flashpoints, what people liked, what they didn't, and this approach is a result of that feedback, so I really hope it works, I hope people like it, and I hope they carry it on going forward. Anyway, that covers the main points of the stream. I guess overall I'd say I'm cautiously optimistic about this update. I like a lot of the mechanical things I'm seeing with regard to the story, separating the flashpoint from the story, being willing to use possibly dead companions, and being willing to invest the time to add a new zone to an old planet. These are all really great things to see. Now, as to the quality of the writing and the storytelling, will we actually accomplish anything this time? Well, the proof of the pudding is in the tasting, as they say, and so we'll just have to wait and see. But what about you guys? Are you happy about these changes? Are you excited to go back to Voss? Have any thoughts on who will win between Tau and Rivix? Let us know in the comments, and if you like this video, give us a like and subscribe for more stuff like this. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.